Today we're going to make this fun pin and needle minder holder. To make it look just like this, you're going to need your bonus design from the Bella box and background quilting from clear blue tiles. If you don't have the Bella box or clear blue tiles, you can make something very similar. Instead of using this specific inset, you can use a quilted block, a piece of your favorite fabric, a cross-stitch pattern, or a hand embroidery pattern. Use your imagination. Let's get started and let's make one that looks just like this. I'm going to go over what you need to make the project as shown in the introduction. I have an embroidery hoop. This one is a 6-inch embroidery hoop. You can use any size you want, but today I'll be using a 6-inch. Some fabric from the Bella box. I had leftover fabric, so I pulled one. That's a nice light color for background. Scrap batting. This is the light mesh cutaway. I have some pins. We've got our instructions from the Bella box for the bonus design. Put a pin in it. I've picked my own thread colors, and today we're going to use clear blue tiles for our background quilting. If you have this and you haven't opened it yet, we're going to open it today. But if you don't have the clear blue tiles, you can pick any background quilting you might have, or you can leave off the background quilting. When you get your fabric ready for this project, make sure it's going to be big enough to cover the hoop and then go inside the hoop and tighten it down. What I did was I took the hoop and I laid it on the fabric and I cut it. I ended up with a 9-inch square, and this is a 6-inch hoop. Anything extra we will trim away at the end, but make sure you've got enough. Once I had this, I had some scrap batting, and I just laid the fabric down on the big piece of scrap batting and just went around it and cut the batting. That's an easy, no measure way to do it. You can see it's going to be plenty big. Extra will be cut off, but it's better to have extra than not have enough. Go ahead and hoop your light mesh cutaway stabilizer. We're going to be using a 6x6 background quilting file, so your hoop needs to be big enough to accommodate that. This hoop, even though it looks like a rectangle, is an 8x8 hoop. I wrote it on the back to help me remember. Make sure you put your stabilizer in, hand tighten, and screwdriver tighten it down. Let's open our clear blue tiles. If you've never opened yours before, today's the day. Go ahead and open this up. I've used mine before, so my box has been opened. You've got your user's guide on top, and there will be 2 white slap bands in here. Mine are somewhere, I'm not quite sure. And we're going to want our USB. You can also see there's 2 markers here. I've used one of the markers. Get your clear blue tiles, USB. Again, if you don't have this USB, if you don't have the clear blue tiles, you can pick a different background quilting. We're going to go over to the machine. I'm going to show you how to select and load your files and how we're going to step through the project. This is the side of my embroidery machine. This is where you plug in the USB, but I have this USB port here. This actually has 4 ports. The machine can only read from 1 port at a time, so if you have more than 1 USB in here, it's only going to read 1. But the reason I have this is once this is plugged in to the side of the machine here, I'm not pulling things in and out of the machine, and I just taped it here to be more convenient. I'm on a baby lock meridian today, and if you hear noise in the background, it's laundry day again, so there's laundry going. What we need to do is get the file off the clear blue tile USB and save it to the machine because my Bella box files are on another USB. I'm going to go ahead and hit embroidery, my USB, and you'll see everything come up on my clear blue tiles. I want to find a block by block background. Now you will see a couple other files on here. I have been using my clear blue tiles, so I have additional files. You want to look for the embroidery files quilting folder, and then you need to select the file type for your machine. Mine is PES. Here you can see all of the choices. I went through and decided I wanted to work with the loops. You can pick something different. Go through, look at them all, see what you like. I'm going to select loops, and I'm only going to be quilting one little thing. So today we're going to work with the block by block. And I want 6 inches square. That's right there. I'm going to grab that file. Now that the file's up, I'm going to hit the set button. And I need to save this to my machine. Down at the bottom, there's a memory button. I'm going to push that, and I want to save it on my machine since I can only use one USB at a time. So now this file is saved in my machine. I'll go ahead and show you that. I'm going to hit the home button. That's going to ask me if I want to cancel, and that's fine. Now if we go back to the beginning and I hit the machine, there's my file. I've pulled out the clear blue tile USB, and I've put in the USB that has my Bella Box files. The first thing we want to do is actually load that clear blue tile, because that's going to be our background quilting. I'm going to go to the machine. There's my file. I'm going to select that file. It brings the file up. We want to hit the set button first. And once it's set, there's a button to add. And now we're going to pull our file from the Bella Box USB. This has a lot on it, but you can see I've got one set just for the Bella Box So Timeless. I want to find the bonus designs, which happen to be right up here. And I need the pincushion bonus design. That's what I want. I'm going to go ahead and hit the set button and the embroidery button. Now I have everything loaded. You can see that it centered it for me, which is fine. I like it in the center. You can also see these outlines for the hexagon for the pincushion. We're not going to stitch that. As you're going through this project, you do need to pay attention as you step through. We are going to skip some of the stitching. We're going to start with the square, which is going to be our batting placement line. Load a neutral thread and stitch your batting placement line. Now that you have your tack down line, you want to go ahead and place your batting. You can see mine's plenty big enough, and I talked about how to measure that in the beginning of the video. Put your batting down and then run the tack down line. Normally we would trim this at this point, but because we're going to be putting this in that embroidery hoop and trimming the extra at the end, you don't have to trim it. Your batting is tacked down. The next square is going to go slightly outside of this square, and that's your fabric tack down line. This outside line is the fabric tack down line. You want to cover this with your fabric. Plenty big enough. Make sure everything's covered, all your lines are covered, and then stitch your fabric tack down line. Everything's tacked down and we're ready to go. Let's look at the next step on the embroidery machine. We're up to the background quilting. Pick whatever thread color you want and we'll go ahead and stitch that background quilting. Here's how I picked my thread color. I've got the blue dots and it's white. I didn't want to do white. I don't want something this dark. I picked sort of an icy blue, pale blue. That's going to be my background quilting color. Here's my background quilting. I really like the choice of the light blue. Here's the hoop to give you a visual. You can see all of the quilting will fit inside this hoop, and we're going to be cutting most everything else out from the outside. That was the last step of the background quilting. You can see now it's moved on to the pincushion design, and we've got a square here. We don't need that. We're not making the pincushion. We don't need this step. We want to skip it. How do you skip it? On my machine, I've got this little needle plus minus. There should be something similar on yours. I'm going to go ahead and press that. It brings up a couple of options. I'm going to be using this top one today. This is a down and an up button, and that applies to that color. It'll move through the whole color, so it'll skip through this whole part. But if you want to go slower through a design, or maybe you have a thread break and you need to back it up or move it forward, you can specify number of stitches. Let's go ahead and jump a full color, and we've got another square because this also has tack down and placement lines. We don't need this either. This first hexagon is a fabric placement line. If you are making the pincushion, let me show you on the instructions. You can see it has a background fabric. I'm not going to do a background fabric on mine because the whole thing is background fabric with some quilting. If you want to make this design pop out, you can pick a background fabric. If you're going to use a background fabric, you would stitch this out. This is your placement line. Once you stitch your placement line, you would stitch the tack down line and then trim around your fabric. Again, I'm not doing a fabric applique for this. I'm just doing the stitching, so I'm skipping these steps. You can certainly go through this and put down an applique if you like. Just make sure you're paying attention and you make sure you get to the correct step. Since I'm not doing the fabric applique, I'm going to go one more step. That's the first step that I want to embroider. This is the decorative outline stitch. Looking at the overall project, if all you want is to put a pin in it with the flowers, you can skip this step. I like the little design on the outside. I like the decorative stitch. I'm going to go ahead and stitch that out, and I need to pick a thread color. I've picked out a nice dark pink, so it'll stand out against this background that I've selected. To exit out of this, go ahead and hit the OK button. Now I'm back to the main screen, and I can see the next thing it's going to stitch is the decorative hexagon. The decorative outline is stitched out. Let's look at our machine and see what's next. The next step is the text. Pick a thread color for that and we'll stitch that out. I picked a bright blue. I want the blue to stand out from the background dots. All the text is stitched out. Let's see what we have to stitch out next. Next up are the tiny little pins right there in the center. Pick a color and get them stitched out. The little pin heads are next. We have the little leaves and then the flowers center. Everything is stitched out. We're done at this point. If you look on your machine, you'll see it has a few steps left. This would be if you're stitching out for the pin cushion. You don't need to do these. Don't do these or you'll end up with this funny pattern on it. You're done. You can clear your pattern. It'll ask you if it's okay to cancel or delete. And you're good. Got my project off the machine and out of the hoop. I'm going to leave my little embroidery hoop like this with the natural wood color. If you want, you can stain it or paint it. You would want to do that before we go on to the next step. I'm going to go ahead and separate my hoop. Make sure I've got plenty of room because we are working with a little quilted block. Set that aside. This embroidery hoop has a little Phillips head, so I've got my little screwdriver to tighten it down. I'm going to turn this towards me. I'm going to get rid of some of this extra stabilizer, just get it out of the way so it'll be easier to work with. Plug in your glue gun if it takes a while to heat up. This is a Sure Bonder high temperature glue gun. This gets really hot, but it does take a while to heat up. I keep mine sitting on a paper plate so any glue that drips off lands on the paper plate. I want to get my project in my hoop. I'm eyeballing it. If you want to make sure it's centered, you can measure. I've got 1 3/4 inches that way, 1 and between 1/2 and 3/4 inches that way. That means I have about 1/8 of an inch extra over here. I'll just pull it a little bit and tighten it. You can also see from the back that I have a little extra over here. And then we want to measure top and bottom. That's if you want this completely centered. About 1.5, that's fine. The thing I'm looking at most is my design straight in the hoop. Straight enough for me. I can shift it a little bit if I want. Once you have this where you want it, make sure it's pressed all the way in. You want to hand tighten, just like you do with your embroidery hoop when you're working on a project. Hand tighten. Make sure everything's nice and tight. And then tighten it with a screwdriver. You can see that the prongs are starting to lean toward each other and push in. That's pretty tight. I used my screwdriver. That's going to be tight enough. What I'm going to do is trim about 1 inch or so out all the way around in a circle. And then we'll be folding it inside and gluing it to the inside with our glue gun. That way you'll have access to the back of your project. If you don't like all of this showing on the back of your project, you could cut a round piece of felt or fabric or something else and put that down. It doesn't bother me because this is the part that's going to be on display. That looks kind of cute, doesn't it? It looks like it's got a little ruffle. If you like that, you could actually leave it like that. What I would do is run some glue right there in that seam to make it secure, and then push it out like that so the glue cooled, and then you have that little ruffle. You can certainly do that and be done with it. We're going to go around and glue this down. Now, there's a lot here. There's stabilizer, batting, and fabric. To help make it easier, I'm going to put in some notches. That way, as I'm gluing down, I'll have sections, and then I'll make it easier to glue. It's time for the glue gun. I have these silicone finger covers. I actually put 2 on at the same time. They're a little bit big, but 2 protects my finger better than 1. I'm going to put glue under each section and then press it down. Looks like I'll probably end up pressing with my thumb. Let's put this on my thumb instead. Take your time with it. Pick a spot. Put a dot of hot glue. Just like that. And press it down. Give it a minute to stick. Even though we've got the stabilizer, the batting, and the fabric, when you press it and hold it, the hot glue comes through and everything will stick down. You want to do that all the way around your project. If you want to go a little bit faster, you can put a little bit more glue down and then glue a couple in a row, but you've got to really press them and hold them, otherwise the layers pop up. Another tip for working with your glue gun, keep some ice water nearby. If you accidentally burn your finger, just shove your finger in the ice water. And then if you don't need it, you can drink it. It's just water. I'm going to go ahead and glue all the way around. I have everything glued down. If you want, you could run a bead of glue along the seam. I'm not going to. This is really secure. Check for anything that might be sticking up. It looks pretty good. Now we're going to dress up the hoop. If you like the way this looks right now, you're done. I'm going to add some fancy pants stuff to the outside. I love my pom-poms. There's big pom-poms, little pom-poms, all different colors, white. You can take your piece, see what you like, see what looks good. These I think are going to be a little bit big for this. You could use them. Stretch it around, see what it looks like. That's fine. That's not bad. I also think I have these in pink. But I found this hot pink one in the bag of multicolor. I think this is going to be what I pick. Let's unwrap this, make sure there's enough. Yeah, there's more than enough. Let's have a look. Oh, I like that. It looks like little pinheads. Do you see that? I'm going to glue this around the outside of the hoop. It's hot glue time again. If you don't like glue guns, you can probably use E6000. This might work with fabric glue or Mod Podge to stick the fabric to the wood. I'm going to start here, go all the way around, and when I get here, I'll show you how to squish stuff in this little opening. Pick your starting point, put a little glue on, push it down. Once that's set, go all the way around the hoop. Put a little bit on, push it down, let it set. Put a little bit on, push it down, let it set. That looks good. I'm going to do that all the way around. We're just about all the way around. I'm going to pull off some of those glue strings. What you want to do is measure how much you need to get to right there. I'm going to cut right here in between those two pom-poms. Looking at this from the top, figure out where these pieces on your hoop will hit, and I'm going to cut the tiniest little slit on those spots. Then when I go to glue it, it'll slide in. I have to set this down for a second. It's going to hit right there. I just want a tiny little snip. And then right there. Really, really tiny little snips. Then you'll put your glue down the last little bit and in between and right over there and lay everything down. You can see I've got a little bit extra here. I just need to trim that off and then push it down so it looks pretty. Everything's glued down. Look for any glue strings. pull those off. I like the way it looks like this. Now, there are a couple of things you can do. If you want, you can tie a ribbon. You can put something fancy up here. You can take yarn. This is from one of the punch needle kits. You can make a loop and loop it through like this. And you can do this with a ribbon too. And then that gives you something to hang it with, and you can hang it on the wall, on a hook, wherever you want to put that. I'm going to leave the top of mine like that. If you use pom-poms and you have extra, you can always put extra at the top if you want. You can completely cover that, but I'm going to leave mine just like this. And I like to display my punch needle and some of my needlework on these folding acrylic stands. I'll put a link below. The ones that I bought, I think they came in a pack of 6. So when it's ready to stand, you just put it on the stand, and then you have to adjust the back piece like that. And then you can set this wherever you want. This is great for seasonal displays. Let's talk about the pins. This pin came in the Bella box. So if you use this design, you've got one of these pins. You can also use this for needle minders. This is the Star Spangled Beauty Matching Needle Minder by Kimberbell. It's got a really strong magnet on it. That will work for this. This came from the Stitch and Rewind event. If you have the Perfectly Pieced subscriptions, those have non-enamel pins. And then of course, anything else you happen to have. I'm just going to put these 3 on it. This one's kind of heavy. I think I'm going to put that one at the bottom and then put one on either side. Here's my Bella box pin, my needle minder, my little button. Doesn't it look great? And if you have a lot of these pins, pick a bigger embroidery hoop, pick a big frame, make this look however you want to make it. I hope you've enjoyed making our fun pin needle minder holder today, and we also used our clear blue tiles and a bonus design from the Bella box. I'm going to find a spot on my shelf and set it up and show you what it looks like. I have it set up right here next to a couple of my rope bowls and above my Baby Lock Pathfinder. Thank you for watching and for making this fun project with me. I'll be making more projects with the bonus designs from the Bella box. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody!